It was supposed to be a perfect birthday night. Dinner with my boyfriend, a quiet celebration. But when I walked through the door, I froze. There was a woman on top of him. On our couch. My heart stopped. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. And then, his friends jumped out, yelling, "Surprise!" It started like any other day. I'd managed to get off work early for my birthday, which felt like a small victory in itself. The anticipation of spending the evening with my boyfriend Alex buzzed through me as I drove home. I was picturing a quiet night in, maybe dinner at our favorite restaurant. Something simple and meaningful. I had no idea what was waiting for me behind our apartment door. When I walked in, the first thing I noticed was a woman lying on top of my boyfriend on our couch. My heart stopped. For a split second, the world shifted beneath my feet. Every fear I'd ever had about betrayal, every insecurity I'd ever carried, came crashing down on me at once. My mind spiraled. This couldn't be happening. Not to me. Not on my birthday. Alex jumped up immediately when he saw me, his eyes widening in panic. He moved quickly to stand between me and the door as I instinctively turned to leave. "It's just a prank, sweetheart," he said. His voice was rushed and uncertain. Then, as if on cue, 10 of his friends came down the stairs carrying a cake and presents, their faces bright with excitement. The realization hit me all at once. This was supposed to be a surprise party. But my body didn't understand that yet. The fear and pain were still very real, still coursing through me. I started crying, unable to stop the tears that were now streaming down my face. "Stop," he said. His tone shifted. There was an edge to it now that made me uncomfortable. "I know you said you didn't want a party, but don't you think this is cool? I put all this effort in so you could have a fun time. Why are you crying?" But I couldn't stop. The tears kept humming, and my boyfriend's frustration only made it worse. His voice grew harder, more aggressive. "Oh my God, stop being so sensitive. It was just a prank." I couldn't hear anything else after that. All I could do was push past him and walk out the door. I got to my car with tunnel vision, started the engine, and drove. I drove until I didn't recognize the streets anymore, until I found a hotel far enough away that I felt safe. I turned off my phone before the texts and calls could wear me down, and I checked in with a numb kind of resolve. Alone in that hotel room, I finally let myself fall apart completely. I sobbed until my throat was raw, until I had nothing left. I cried because I'd been blindsided. I cried because my boyfriend had been aggressive when I was vulnerable. But mostly, I cried because he'd triggered something deep in me that I'd never fully healed from. Growing up, I'd watched my mother cheat on my father. I'd watched it destroy my family from the inside out. Watched my father's heart break. Watched my mother's lies pile up until there was nothing left but wreckage. That trauma had traveled with me into my first serious relationship, where my boyfriend cheated on me too. I thought I'd moved past it. I thought I was with someone different, someone better. But in that moment, on my birthday, all of it came rushing back. The next morning, I called my team leader and asked for a few days off due to an emergency. She was kind about it, though I could tell by her concerned tone that she knew something was very wrong. My voice was hoarse from crying, my words fragmented and weak. I decided to reach out to my aunt who lived nearby. She'd always been the steady presence in my life, the one who listened without judgment. I needed her now more than I ever had before. I needed to get away and figure out what I was supposed to do next, because I had no idea how to face my boyfriend or my friends after everything that had happened. My aunt welcomed me like she was exactly what she needed that day. When I arrived at her house with my hastily packed bags, she pulled me into a hug so tight, it felt like she was holding me together. "You're always welcome here," she said simply. Always. She showed me to the spare bedroom and helped me unpack.
moving around me in the kind of gentle efficiency that only someone who truly cares can manage. She didn't push me to talk about what had happened. She just let me be.
That night, I finally turned my phone back on. Hundreds of messages flooded the screen. Texts, calls, notifications all stacking up at once. My hands shook as I scrolled through the group chat with my friends. At first, the messages were frantic. Where are you? What happened? Are you okay? But as I kept scrolling, the tone shifted. They were apologizing. They were saying the prank hadn't gone according to plan, that something had gone wrong with what was supposed to happen. One of my friends had even blamed the woman who'd been on top of Alex, calling her untrustworthy. And toward the end, they were just hoping I was safe, hoping I'd reach out. My friends immediately noticed I was online. They bombarded me with messages asking how I was and where I was. They apologized again for not being able to stop the prank from happening, insisting they hadn't known what was going to occur. I was confused, so I did something I should have done before leaving. I asked them what actually happened. I apologized for ghosting them and asked them to tell me everything from their perspective. What they explained to me changed things. They'd been planning a surprise birthday party with Alex in a private group chat. Alex had then added some of his old college friends to the mix, people he wanted me to meet. One of these friends, a woman named Anna, had suggested they do a prank to make the party more memorable. The plan was supposed to be simple, a fake serial killer scenario where the woman would pretend to stab Alex with a fake prop while lying on top of him. It was meant to be harmless and quick, just enough to get my reaction on camera before everyone jumped out to surprise me. My friends had been skeptical, but Alex and his college friends assured them it would be fine, that once they captured my reaction, they'd immediately reveal the prank and bring out the party. They'd all agreed, with the condition that the prank wouldn't be dragged out. But something had gone wrong on the day. The woman, Anna, wasn't wearing the costume they'd planned. She didn't have the fake props. When Alex noticed, he asked her about it, and she said they hadn't time to set it up properly because I was about to arrive. Alex had been uncomfortable, but before he could do anything, I'd walked through the door. My friends explained that after everything unfolded, they realized Anna had been on top of Alex without any costume or props. They watched as Alex pushed her away and chased after me. Some of them tried to follow, while others stood around confused, wondering where their plan had gone wrong. Even Alex's college friends seemed baffled by Anna's behavior. When Alex came back to the apartment, he looked devastated. He went straight to the bedroom and shut the door. A few minutes later, Anna followed him inside. My friends heard him shouting at her, telling her to get out. She left in tears, and my friends had been too shocked to process what had happened. When they realized I wasn't coming back, they called and texted, but I'd already turned off my phone. My friends included videos that documented their account of events. They apologized profusely for what had happened, assuring me that they never intended for any of this to occur. They were just happy I was safe. I felt terrible for ghosting them. I apologized over and over, telling them that none of this was their fault. I thanked them for being such amazing friends, and I was genuinely grateful when they suggested we have a late birthday celebration this weekend, just us, without Alex and his friends. The next morning, my aunt knocked on my door and woke me up. "You have a visitor downstairs," she said, and I could hear the slight edge in her voice that told me exactly who it was. Alex was standing in my aunt's living room holding a beautiful bouquet of flowers and a box of my favorite chocolates. Despite how nice he looked, his face told the real story. He'd been crying for days. His eyes were red and swollen, and he looked like he'd aged years in the span of a few hours. I was surprised he'd found me, but he explained that an app on my phone had notified me of my location when I turned it back on. I felt a flicker of irritation at that invasion of privacy, but he was already there, so I decided to hear him out. Alex told me everything my friends had said, but with additional details they couldn't have known. He explained that his college friends had reconnected with him recently after they'd lost touch following graduation. They'd found him on Facebook and wanted to catch up. He'd been thrilled to hear from them, and when they learned he was a boyfriend, they were especially excited. According to Alex, they'd known he was bisexual all along, even back in college, but they never wanted to make him uncomfortable by bringing it up or making assumptions.
When Alex told him about me and mentioned that we were planning a surprise birthday party, they immediately wanted to be part of it. Once they were added to the planning group chat, they'd started suggesting ideas. That's when Anna proposed the prank idea. Alex's college friends had seen similar pranks on TikTok and thought it was hilarious, but my friends had been hesitant. Eventually, though, everyone agreed to move forward. Anna had volunteered to be the person in the prank since she'd been the one to suggest it. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until the actual day of the party. When Alex and Anna went to their positions for the prank, he noticed she wasn't wearing her costume. She'd explained that she had forgotten her props, and when Alex offered to find them, she insisted there wasn't enough time to set it up properly because I was about to arrive. Alex had felt incredibly uncomfortable and wanted to get out of the position, but before he could, I would watch through the door. He admitted that he messed up in that moment. He called everyone out to try to save himself from the embarrassment and provide context for what I was seeing. When that didn't work, he got caught up in his emotions, which is why he spoke to me the way he did, aggressively and without the compassion I needed in that moment. He said he'd forcefully pushed Anna away to chase after me, but he couldn't keep up once I reached my car. That's when reality had hit him. He realized he'd made a massive mistake, and as he was driving back to the apartment, it dawned on him that he had triggered my deepest trauma about cheating. He broke down crying in the car. When he got home, he told everyone to leave and retreated to the bedroom, not knowing what to do. What really shook him was when Anna came into the room, uninvited, and tried to comfort him. He told her repeatedly that he was fine and that she should leave, but then she asked him, "So does that mean you're single now?" In that moment, something clicked for Alex, and he realized that Anna had done this on purpose. She hadn't forgotten her costume. These had been deliberate. He shouted at her angrily, demanding that she leave. She complied, looking humiliated as she walked out the door. Then Alex broke down completely, telling me through his tears that he wished he had never agreed to the prank in the first place. He said he'd cut off contact with his college friends and that he was incredibly sorry for what had happened. When he pulled me into his arms, I felt him shaking. He said, "I love you so much. I'm scared of losing you." His words broke through my anger. Despite everything, I still loved him. I believed him when he said he was sorry. I kissed him and told him to help me pack my things. My aunt hugged me warmly when we were leaving, and she made a joke to Alex that if he ever hurt me again, she'd personally make sure I was taken care of. Alex laughed nervously, but I could see the fear in his eyes. He understood the weight of what had happened, and he understood that my aunt meant every word. Back in our apartment, Alex even offered to throw away the couch that had been used for the prank, but I declined. It was a nice couch, and everything that had happened wasn't the couch's fault. We'd both made our peace with what had happened, or so I thought. My friends were happy that things had worked out. For a moment, it felt like we might actually be okay.
A few days later, Alex came to me while sobbing uncontrollably. He told me he hadn't been completely truthful about Anna. They had history, serious history. Anna had been his first girlfriend back in college. They'd been together for a long time, and he'd experienced many firsts with her. When she broke things off after graduation because she couldn't handle long distance and wanted her freedom, it had devastated him. He'd fallen into a deep depression that took years to climb out of. He told me that things didn't really get better until he met me. "You were the light at the end of the tunnel," he said. "You helped me become human again." But then his college friends had found him on Facebook, and reconnecting with them had stirred up old feelings. And when he was added to the group chat that included Anna, everything came rushing back. According to Alex, the old feelings he'd had for Anna had reignited, especially since she was acting like nothing bad had ever happened between them. They'd agreed to meet up to catch up properly, and one thing had led to another. Alex's voice broke as he admitted that he and Anna had been intimate every single day leading up to my birthday. It wasn't until he saw my devastated face when he realized Anna was on top of him that it hit him like a physical blow. He understood in that moment that what he had with me was incomparable to what he'd ever had with Anna. That's what had finally made him realize how much he'd messed up, and that's what had driven him to confess everything to me now. I listened to his confession, and I cried. He cried.
We held each other and sobbed for what we'd lost before we'd even fully had it. But I couldn't move past it. Not this time. Not after everything. I calmly told him that I accepted his apology, but I couldn't be with him anymore. I told him I needed to leave and figure things out once we both had clearer heads. He didn't take it well. He started sobbing desperately and wrapped his arms around me so tightly I could barely breathe. He was trying to physically keep me from leaving, as if holding on hard enough could change my mind. I had to push him away, hard enough that he stumbled backward. Then I ran to my car and drove to my aunt's house as fast as I could. When I got there, I fell into her arms and sobbed. She didn't ask questions. She just held me while I cried until I had nothing left. Until exhaustion pulled me under and I slept. The next day, I got a call from one of Alex's friends. Alex had been found unresponsive. He was in the hospital and they didn't know what had happened. I didn't want to go. I was still reeling from his confession, still trying to process the betrayal and the lies. But then I remembered something important. Alex didn't have any family in the area. He didn't have anyone else. And I was the only one who knew his full medical history, his allergies, his health details. Technically, I was still his emergency contact. So I went. I drove to the hospital and sat outside his room, waiting for the doctors to give me an update. My stomach was twisted in knots. He still hadn't woken up, and I was bracing myself for when he did. I was terrified of seeing him, terrified of what this meant, terrified of how I still felt despite everything. The truth was, I still loved him. Even after the cheating, even after the lies, even after the cruel prank that had triggered all of my trauma. I loved him, and it broke my heart that we weren't meant to be together. He'd shown me that he was capable of hurting me in ways I'd never thought possible. And I'd shown him that there were consequences to those choices. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if he'd wake up, if we'd ever see each other again, if anything could be repaired from this wreckage. But I sat in that hospital chair anyway, and I waited, because that's what you do when you love someone, even when it's the hardest thing in the world.